welcome to Charles SMP News Network. Today, we are joined by Big Dave. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Hello, I'm Dave. I'm the owner of Dankus, and I've been around since Season 6, the Charles SMP.
Yep.
Dave,
Chapter 1.
otherwise known as the Great Manipulator.
He's also known as the Great Manipulator.
Yep, that's me.
And Satan. So, Dave, just kidding. So,
And Satan.
where do you want to get started here? There's a lot we can talk about. As far as your involvement with the server over the years, you've been very involved, massively important player. But where would you like to get started here?
Well, I think we can probably just talk about some of the more recent events with Dankus's involvement in the war between Lopad and the AFFS.
Okay, well, what do you think about Lopad's Dankus's involvement in the Third Spawn War?
Well, I don't feel like it was completely necessary to every degree. I feel like this conflict could have been avoided if both sides were willing to actually converse about things in a sensible and respectable manner. But that didn't happen, and I'd say it didn't happen for a large majority of the war. There was a lot of slander that went around, and insulting, and just a general demonization of either side as it goes in war. I guess I thought we'd gotten better at that type of stuff, throughout the years, but it seemed like it was just back to same old formula again.
I don't think there was any way it could have been avoided. Once Spawn, especially after the Coalition War, I mean, y'all don't know much about it, but Charles Wilkie specifically was very, very upset that Lopad declared war on Doramas. Very upset.
Yeah.
Talked about it regularly. That's really when the ties broke. And with Spawn becoming claimable, that's right on the doorstep of all these factions that were affected by the Coalition War. Negatively.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was any situation where that just went like that. Nothing. Even if
feel like
war wasn't declared when it was.
You think either side could have declared war?
Yeah.
Or you think it would have? Okay.
I think it would have broke out no matter who declared war first or when.
Just because there was all the past aggressions and tension
built
up.
And then just think of it this way. I mean, if the Spawn battle was going to happen no matter what would have happened?
Well, I feel like if we had gotten on top of it right away and actually talked to Wilkie, we probably could have come to some form of agreement where we would share Spawn. Because if we were let in on the whole AFFS idea that it's just a bunch of people who want to share Spawn, nobody gets to hog it, or free Spawn, as the name would imply, but it seems anything but for people who don't live in the Spawn region. And I don't know, it was a little bit sad to see that, we weren't included in this alliance, because I was hoping to build a more stable relationship and connection with Charlesonia, after I came back, because you weren't in charge anymore as a new leader, so I was hoping. I knew Wilkie. I didn't know him very well, but I thought I'd make an attempt. But I guess things didn't go the way I hoped, and I have regrets. And
in your opinion, is there any reason that Lopad and oh my goodness, I guess Lopad to a degree, all these factions that were involved in the Spawn War against each other, is there any reason they can't get along now?
I don't think there should be any reason why they can't get along if both sides just stop looking at this person did this person did that, and letting that speak for the entire entire faction when it's just the actions of individuals. Because Luke, I feel, has been really fair to a lot of people, like everyone. He tries to be respectful to and reasonable. He tries to come to a fair conclusion where both sides get something instead of just being left with nothing at all.
I actually think that I feel for Luke a lot, especially with the whole Burton situation. It's almost a direct mirror to all the stuff that happened with Blocky, for example, back in season 7 and 8 to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that blame fell on me, just like it fell on Luke. Now, it's crazy to see how stuff kind of mirrors itself, even in a game like this.
Yep.
Just the stuff always happens over and over and over again, no matter what.
Yep. The repetition.
It's in a way.
the dreaded repetition, but
it's like poetry. It rhymes. I
don't feel like repetition exists in the way people think it does. Like they think it just happens because just because there's no reason or cause behind it. History will just repeat itself endlessly, and there's no explanation.
That's not what the repetition means.
For it, I don't think that's true. I feel like there are reasons. There's causes. What's that?
That's not what the repetition means.
Can you define it for
the repetition,
all the people that are confused?
And when you're talking about the server's history, is this it very clearly defines a period in server history, which was season 8 through to season 9.
Mm-hmm.
Which was this? It was the idea that no matter what we did, this group would always reform, fall, reform stronger, fall, reform stronger, fall, until eventually they just became strong enough to where they didn't fall, and they actually won. That's the idea of it. Which it was either they quit or they won, and that's what ended up happening. They quit. But like we said in the interview with Slack, link in the description, by the way. I feel like so much of the stuff that caused the repetition was just this idea that it's the owner's faction, it has to be destroyed. They're obviously cheating. They're doing something. Like he said, a lot of the hate was coming from that. And that's what was causing the repetition. I don't think the repetition could happen again. I just don't think it can.
I just remember Welke reaching out to me and Luke at some point, saying we need to stop the repetition. And then next battle rolls around and he says, give us what we want, then we can move on, or something like that. And it's not as simple when the demands, I don't personally feel, are reasonable, but in their eyes it is reasonable. So it's hard to come to that compromise where we can establish a connection and also be respectful about it, because I feel like these debates and conversations get heated very quickly when there isn't really need for it. Lots of passive-aggressive remarks and jabs are made, and it's it becomes something it really doesn't need to.
Yep. Now we're going to have a message from our sponsors over on Patreon. If you want to help the server financially, so we can purchase better software and hardware, actually, and make the server run better as it needs to compensate for the rapidly growing player base, please go donate on Patreon. There are several different tiers. You'll be recognized for it. You'll get one of these, custom made for you. They're beautiful, and they'll have your name. It'll be however you want them made. I'll make it however you want it. I spent maybe an hour working on this one that Dave has, just so it could look how awesome that is. It's amazing, isn't it? You can have something just like that, something incredible. But our first message, let me see here, comes from Ditch Lemon. It's the same one he had before. Join Swagtopia for a free UWP burger, and to hell with Easton. That's outdated. Swagtopia, doesn't exist, but I'm sure he would still want us to say to hell with Easton. That's his message. Easton's message is, join the Mafia, hashtag down with the Inactivity Alliance. And Paige says, yet again, UWP burger. We got a new sponsor, though. I'd still like to recognize them. Pup Merrill has sponsored the server, but has not given us a message to read off yet. So thank you to all of them, and I'll read it off again. Our sponsors for this month are Lemon, Easton, Paige, and Putt Merrill. Thank you so much, guys. And let's continue with the interview. So, Dave, should people go donate on Patreon / Charles SMP?
Heck yes, brother.
Yes, sir. You can continue what you're saying anyway, sir.
Yes. Forgot where I was. Talking about
repetition.
The repetition.
Yeah. I personally feel like better compromises could have been made if the effort was made to sympathize with us more, but the biggest mistake was thinking that we would do things worse when I don't think there was any evidence that we have in the past that would like lead you to think we would do something as bad as the type of stuff that was being imposed. Like a lot of these things that happened to Lopad, they don't affect me at all, but I still greatly sympathize for the people of Lopad and would like to help as best as possible just because I know like there's something I can do about it, so shouldn't I?
Yeah.
But it's just been sad to see all around. And I hope to help Lopad rebuild and hopefully restore its position in the server as one of the biggest and strongest factions.
It still is. It still is.
Yeah.
This is the AFFS is still is a contender up there now.
Yep.
Sorry about the voice. I don't know what's going on.
So back in the day, though, when I was a part of the UWP, I don't think my goal was ever to destroy Charles SMP. I feel like at a time I was really mad and I said some things out of impulse. But more than anything, I just wanted to be able to stand on the same ground as Charles SMP and fight back against a few specific individuals that were causing some distress to me and a few others. I mean, these individuals were at the time Blocky Danny, Real XD Lucas, and Coley the Cat.
Don't forget Brother Blaze. Don't forget Brother Blaze.
Yeah,
he burned down Dankus.
He did burn down Dankus that one time. And then Dankus got blown up.
A week later.
Yep. I don't hold grudges, though.
I think that was in the video. Did I include the blaze burning?
I don't think that, because that was when you guys marched up with your blue caps on to barrier. And you're like, we just want to visit, guys. And you always like put on the blue caps when you were like going to do like war stuff or something.
it was our like, we didn't have mods back then, so it was like our distinguisher. These are Charles SMP people. They have blue caps on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. Which now, we've done that a lot. We did that in Season 8 with the Ranger hats, too. But they don't really do it anymore, though. They don't use a specific hat. Of course, we have uniforms now, so you don't have to. Yeah. And, I asked... Oh, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, no, you had something to say.
Well, I don't know if we asked it in your other interview. We did interview you several months ago when you first rejoined. But, you have been here since 2020.
Yep.
And if we already talked about this last time, that's fine, because a lot of things have happened. We've actually changed since then. But how do you feel about the server now as opposed to how it was back then?
So of course there's a lot of nostalgia I feel for the old days. I feel like I was able to grow a lot closer with people and really bond at a personal level just because our community was really small. And if you watched Slack's interview, link in the description.
Subscribe on Patreon.
He talks about how it's a small town feel, how it was a small town feel, but now it's more expanded and big, and you don't know everyone. And that's cool. It's really cool. But the community level back in the day. But there are also a lot of amazing quality of life changes that I've seen on the server lately. I mean, one of the biggest ones is just the variety in uniforms and customization. Like you're able to really express your faction and how you want to play the server. I mean, there's guns and all sorts of cool mods that really amplify the experience while not really hindering or taking away. I feel like it's a really special thing, and I never would have imagined that it would be in this state when I joined in season 6.
Yeah,
I mean, it's come a really long way, and I'm glad I stuck with it.
We are too. We're glad you stuck with us.
Even if I did, disappear for a year.
It's okay.
Because
most people did.
Yeah.
That's one thing I mentioned the other day. About, I don't know if it was in public chat or not, but I was talking about my ultimate vision for what this community could become and what we could use the idea of this server for in the future. And someone said that it was outrageous and it was impossible. But when I made this 13-year-old kid on my Xbox, I wouldn't even have thought that we would have had this hosted on a server. That was out of the question. I never thought that would even be possible. Just having it on a server that ran on its own all the time was something that was just so out there for me. It seemed so unattainable back then. But 2-3 years later, we stuck with it. We got that. And then 2 years later now, we have 30 people on at a time some days. There's a good 50 different people who get on every single day to play at different times. We have people all over the world. It really just goes to show, like, if you stick to something for long enough and don't give up, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you got to try and improve, obviously. But, speaking on that, what are some improvements you'd like to see?
Yeah.
On the server.
Well, one of the biggest ones, and I know it's already in the works. It's the just the I know it's the forbidden word. Lag.
Oh my god, bro. Can we keep this guy?
No, I mean, me personally, I just feel like when we start getting more and more people on, during the battles, I do experience a lot of frame rate drops, and the muskets become pretty inoperable. Like what used to be really viable in those small skirmishes just becomes completely useless because you can't land the shots because they're delayed by solid 2-3 seconds after pulling the trigger.
Which hopefully that's not an issue anymore with the new ones, but
I think it all just has to do with the internet connection of the server, because I don't know if it has to do with the location of the server being over in the UK at the moment, and we're in North America, so there might be some stronger delays on our end as opposed to a lot of the European people we're fighting against, who are a lot closer, have a more stable connection. I feel like that might be a fact. It's not the entirety. I know they do have a really big skill pool that they draw their strength from, but I feel like it definitely is a factor. So that's one thing I'd like to see improved. Then another thing I'm hoping for at some point. I know it's pretty. I don't know if it's out of the question or it's just a dream, but I do hope for a bit more server unity, like where factions aren't so divided and absolutely PvP oriented, dealing in absolutes and whatnot. I feel like
I don't know if that's possible.
I know it's probably not, but it's a nice dream to have.
I mean, just looking at how the server is now, there are different factions based around that type of person. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, Easton very much promotes the Mafia as a PvP faction. And it grows insanely because of it. All these people who really enjoy going around and killing people for fun, they all want to join the Mafia. We've seen it. People have come out of retirement to join the Mafia. GLX joined too.
Fingerlinger.
Yeah. And, I think it's up to the people of the server to say, we're not going to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's at a point now where there's so many people, and these people are such a small minority that if they keep doing this, there's gonna be some kind of repercussion. People are gonna fight back, and they're not gonna have any chance at all. And hopefully, they realize that before it's too late.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I about to say? What were we just talking about before this?
Server Unity.
Server Unity. All right. Okay. So back when I first rejoined the server, I remember Lucas Peace Accords. That was a big thing in my first interview. I was hoping that I could try and start tying factions together that I thought were, more divided. I know Lopad, Charlesonia, Dankus. I mean, I've been good friends with Lopad, but Charlesonia hasn't always seen eye to eye with either me or Luke. So that's what I was trying to do, and I reached out to excuse me, some other factions, such as Peakshire at the time, and that ended up being a mistake because I didn't know much about them at the time. All I saw was a lot of just hate and yelling, and I wanted to formulate my own opinion on them before I took a side, and that led to some unrest in both Charlesonia and Lopad. I remember Luke was going to go to war with Dankus if I helped Peakshire in any way, and Gravity seemed like a nice enough person at the time of talking to him. I mean, when I first did, but I mean, I wouldn't have made those steps if I did take more time to know him. I just wanted to see what type of person he was first, and I wasn't going to do anything drastic. I was just trying to befriend as many people as possible and build connections again on the server. But
I think
it doesn't really... Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt to try that again. Now that you actually know what's going on, you know the people.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of people know me now, and I do have a reputation on the server. I mean, in the past, I was basically the figurehead of the UWP, and the UWP is depicted as a this terrifying thing that
I mean,
is super dangerous.
I don't think there's anybody who holds it against you anymore.
I know somebody. I know somebody.
Which
somebody who still talks about how we got manipulated into joining. One of the founders of it.
Boba Fett, clearly. We're clearly talking about it. But
I won't call him out here because I know he'll deny everything. But anyways,
I mean, I guess the last thing I want to ask you is, you're primarily building based faction, and I love that. I think the server needs more big builds. But we're moving into the second season now. Here in May coming up. What's the plan for Dankus?
Okay, so in just about every season of my time here, I've built a base in almost every biome. The biome I'm hoping to build my next city in is the desert. Once the desert opens, I know Whalekey has plans for the desert, but I do remember, I do remember hearing him say that he'd be willing to work with other factions and sharing the desert and whatnot. And I think that would be wonderful, because I wouldn't by any means be trying to take all of it up. I just want a small portion of it to build something really cool. I have my signature Dankus structure here. I mean, I built one at Port Dankus. I hope to build one at the other two
Is it getting
cities.
Foggy?
It did.
What?
Yeah.
What? Does it do that here often?
When it rains.
Oh,
it does, yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I hope to build this signature, the towers connected with roofs on top and bridges and whatnot. Like, it's one of my favorite things to make right now.
I love this, actually. This is a really cool layout.
Yeah, I hope to make one in the desert, but made out of sandstone, and there's gonna be like a pyramid on top of it instead of towers. I think that would be neat.
It would be really neat.
Yep.
Which I don't
So-
know. I don't know where this desert that everyone the fabled promised land, the desert. I don't know where it is on the map. I don't know where it is on the map, so it's gonna be confusing going into
Out
it.
there.
And
I have faith.
yeah, based on how many people say they want to go to the damn desert, we're gonna have to use API's new claim system there, so we can have the room and there's no overlapping claims. So everyone has space if they want it. Because otherwise,
I got a question for you, Jace.
Go ahead, brother.
Do you think we're going to see a holy war for the promised land of the desert?
It depends on if anybody is wanting to like
take it all,
expand. Yeah, someone has real big
monopolize the fight.
Okay, ISIM. If there is going to be a war for the desert, this is my official prediction. It is going to be fought primarily by ISIM or whatever it is called by that point, or Charles Onia/Doramas. One of those two or both trying to expand out into the desert to the point where there's too much. There's not enough space left. And if anybody fights back, you'll obviously have a conflict there.
Yeah.
Which I think at least 10 people have told me they can't wait for the desert to come so they can build something. So I'm hoping it doesn't. Which, it'd be cool to have a war for the desert.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that everyone at least gets a place to build in the desert somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And of course there is a Badlands out there, someone has said, which is even cooler.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Just imagining Actually, no, I'm not going to say that. But yeah. Speaking of Doramas, I've noticed lately that their members have been growing, and I've actually seen some really lovely conversations in the chat from a lot of their members. Like, I saw a few of them like befriending Aglarian members, and it's growing to be a really beautiful faction. I feel. I mean, like, it was originally just Zevdi and Exo, and it was more PvP oriented, and now it's grown into something that's really cool to see. That's one of the. I've not been to Doramas yet. It's on my to-do list, but it's cool to see something that was. I mean, it's cool to see a sub-faction actually sprout into something bigger. Because most people, they just want to be sub-factions because they don't want to like.
Yeah.
They want to be their own thing. They want to be in charge. They want to have their own name and their own banner and whatnot, while still reaping the benefits of community and like being a part of someone else's faction that can protect them. But
you saw one of those rare Jason too.
Yeah, when we were discussing just removing the whole like you have to have slaves if you want to bypass the faction cap, and we introduced the sub-faction system. That was the intention, is that they would become their own things eventually. We've seen it happen a few times now. Like you said, Doramas, Aglaria. I don't know if there are any more. But that's the intention. That's what we hope would happen.
The NWA is pretty big now.
Yeah. And it's funny. These sub-factions are growing to be some of the biggest factions on the server.
Yeah.
And they can all be... they can all find their origins.
Kurdistan.
Yeah. Yeah, they can... Well, I don't... That's a different... But they can kind of be seen as like the children of the original Cottony factions. I mean, you have Charles Onia's Doramas, Aglaria, Lopad is Aglaria, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if Dankus adopts a sub-faction one day, it would grow to do the same thing. It's a really neat trend we're seeing.
Oh, and then because Charles Onia, Dankus, and Lopad are like the three original factions of the server.
Yeah.
But could you clarify real quick. Which one came first, Dankus or Lopad? There's a lot of people that are confused about this.
Bradpad.
Well, if we get technical,
which was discovered first?
Discovered first was Dankus, but if you remember correctly, the faction of Dankus didn't exist.
It was a faction. You annexed it.
It was a fort.
Well,
it was specifically called Fort. It's called Fort Dank. Dankus didn't exist until we annexed it, and you built something behind Charlesonia. Then it became the subfaction of Dankus.
Yeah, but it was supposed to be a faction, and then Blue Panda.
Yeah,
he had to foil everything.
I remember the battle of Fort Dank. Oh,
ran out on the bridge and blew up.
You know, when we initially annexed Fort Dankus, that's the only time my brother has ever gotten on the server to help us with something. He was there. The only time he's ever gotten on.
Can I just share an inside scoop on that whole incident?
Yeah.
Still haunts me to this day. So I was just in my basement trying to expand underneath like Fort Dank. I remember having a conversation with you earlier. I had no clue this invasion was coming because I had a conversation with you about being trade allies at some point. So I was like, "Oh, this is cool. I'm on my own now. I'm on my own 2 feet. It's gonna be a good day." I'm clearing out this underground bunker, and then I turn around and look up, and I see several name tags up above me, 2 coming down the staircase, and then here comes the real XD Lucas, wearing a golden helmet, and he has a golden axe, and he starts comboing me, and then I combat log.
I love that about like the early season 7 Spawn War stuff. Like everyone uses iron armor and gold tools, chain armor.
So goofy.
I love that. Like, for nowadays, like wars break out, people won't go to war unless they have like I gotta have my full diamond kit. I gotta have everything. Like back then, it was like we got iron. That's all we got.
Everyone was a specter.
And I love that. No. You know, you asked me which one was discovered first. Like their discovery is what discovery by another faction determines which one came first. Which is funny.
I was saying that because Charlesonia is the one that really writes a lot of the history. You write the history on the server.
It's almost like Indians in the Americas. This one was discovered first. Like
the native tribe.
It's funny because
I think Lopad was the first.
Dankus was the first one we found, but there's no way to know which one came first. It's almost like it was like less than a week of just this unrecorded Spawn history that we will never know which one came first. We'll never know that.
I do remember trying to recruit people, and I had 2 people. And Blue Panda, he was on board with it, and then for whatever reason, he got cold feet. It's like, oh, but wait a minute, I've been a spy this whole time. Sorry, Dave.
Savage. What am
I remember the Lopad annexation. Nobody knows about the flag.
We do need to wrap this up, though. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the camera? Aside from subscribing to the Patreon immediately. But
of course.
Clearly.
Praise Dale.
Roll Tide. Okay. And there he goes. Thank you guys for watching. Consider donating to the Patreon. Consider subscribing. And if you like the video, like it. If you didn't like it, then dislike it. Anyway, though, goodbye, guys. Thank you for watching. Praise God.